Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. How's everyone doing on this glorious Friday, May 19th? And I am joining you here from Phoenix, Arizona, where it finally dipped back below 100 degrees. It's been super hot for the past couple of weeks, and I hope you are enjoying some glorious weather wherever you are at. We've got some glorious basketball to be talking about tonight. We're down to single game showdown slates here with the conference final championships, and gives us the opportunity to really dig into each game. So thank you for joining on this Friday afternoon. Doug L beat out Stacks for the first one in the chat, so appreciate you, man. Doug, you've been smashing those MLB lineups and loving some of your GTP calls. It's been a lot of fun having you on board here at Coach Talk. So I'm going to do things a little differently today. I figured with the one-game slate, we're starting to get a little bit more into the series. We have an opportunity to really dig into each of the formats. We'll go into. I'm probably not going to spend much time on Yahoo, but a little bit more on DraftKings and FANDUEL, where most of you guys play. And I'll talk to you pricing-wise about some of my key likes and key fades. So let's dive in. We're going to start off with DraftKings, and here we're going to focus on, we've got our captain spot. So DraftKings prices things such that you have to pay up for that one spot, so you've got to use it wisely, and everyone else is a utility player. I thought the pricing's pretty interesting here on DraftKings overall. You clearly have, it's the case of the haves and the have-nots, right? So you clearly have Butler, Tatum, and Brown, all in that top position. In fact, Butler is the highest price on the slate above Tatum, which is super interesting in my mind. I think you get a little bit of a savings if you go to Tatum. And if you think about the game script tonight, it's in Boston. Boston lost the first game, a little bit of an embarrassment there by losing that first game. They do not want to lose this game. If they lose this game, they're pretty much done. Tatum didn't have a bad game. Now, the rule of thumb with Tatum is typically he'll have a awesome game when he comes off of a not so awesome game. In this case, he actually played pretty well, but Boston just didn't have enough to put the nail in the coffin with Miami. So I think Tatum has another really good night. I actually think that Butler is the guy who has an off game tonight. I think they realize that he's the key to that entire team. And if you slow down Butler, you can slow down Miami. They just don't have enough firepower. A lot of these guys are specialists, either defensive specialists like a Martin or offensive specialists like a Strus. Adebayo, he's good, but, he is not setting the world on fire in these playoffs by any stretch of the imagination. It's really Butler that you got to stop. I think they come through. I think they do that tonight. He's the guy that I'm basically going to be fading of the big guys. I prefer going Tatum and Brown and then Adebayo and not Butler. But basically, I think that, either of those guys are solid as your pay-up captain spot. Now, obviously, you're going to have to play around a little bit, make sure you get all the right guys in. What I wouldn't do is I would not go below Robert Williams at 4,600. That's as low as I go. You can play around with some of these cheapy guys like a Robinson or a Pritchard or a Love, who are getting minutes in the teams, but they're just as likely to get you a single-digit fantasy score as they are to get you a 20. And, given that, I think you're much better off, instead of shooting for that, you got some great value at the bottom of this range here. Caleb Martin's playing out of his head. He's playing really solid basketball, offensively and defensively. And here's the thing, they need him out there because he's the only one who can guard Tatum other than Butler. And so I think he's really valuable in this series, and I think he's going to continue to play a decent amount of minutes. And he is way down there at just 5K. If you think about it, Martin's at 5K. Now, I'm assuming he gets 24 points, fantasy points, okay? At 5K, 24 points, that means you got to go, if you go up to Butler, he's got to give you 63 fantasy points to just equal Caleb Martin, okay? So if Butler is having, Butler has to have one of his best games to get you a 63. If he gets you a 45 to a 55, it just doesn't cut it. And so, again, Butler's the guy I'm fading tonight. I love Martin. I like Vincent a lot as well. I mean, he is their main ball handler. Lowry's playing a very different type of, six-man off the bench, which I absolutely love. I think he's playing great. But Vincent, super solid, and he's going to get you the minutes. And he's got some upside too. So at 5,400, I absolutely love him. Brogdon seems to be getting the minutes over Derek White. They're really going with him more in this series. I think originally the thinking was that maybe White would get more defensively, but they're really going with Brogdon's hot hand, and he's been effective both offensively and defensively. He is questionable, though. He's a little bit dinged up, so something to watch out about. Not a crazy play to go for a GPP to go with Derek White. If Brogdon is slowed at all or gets fewer minutes, White's going to absorb those, and at 4,800, he could be the absolute steal. Again, he hasn't really done it at all this year in the playoffs, but if you guys remember last year in the playoffs, he was good for 30 plus a night. So I like White as a GPP option. Not interested in Strus at that pricing. Could he go off? Yeah, not the best team. Defense is just too good, and I don't love Strus's game in this matchup. I do like Lowry coming off the bench. I think he's super solid there. The guy that I'm also really eyeing is Marcus Smart. I think Marcus Smart is due for one of his 40-point fantasy nights. He is a really, really underrated player, both offensively and defensively. And with all the focus on Tatum and Brown, he's able to get his shots. So I really like him as well at 7,200. Little less interested in Horford. I think he's getting, his pricing's gotten up there. I think he's solid, but with Williams playing the minutes that he is, I think that dampens things for Horford a little bit. So I am less interested in him. And Adebayo, man, I don't know. He still needs to show me something. It hasn't happened yet. So again, Dayton Butler, Taven Brown are my favorite pay-up options. Mid-range, I'm really excited about Smart and Lowry. And then if you're looking for value, Vincent and Martin and White and a GPP. Williams is tricky. For some reason, both DraftKings and FanDuel have priced him way down. And I don't know if they're anticipating that he is going to be coming off the bench tonight and not starting. He's certainly going to be really high owned because of his pricing. So I'm tempted to fade him tonight. I'm going to wait and see kind of, fitting in wise. I think he can be fine. So if you need him, great. But again, I'd rather go with like a Martin for a few hundred more. But if you need him to fit into your lineup, I think he's solid there. I just don't think he's going to get quite the minutes that he has been. All right, so that's a rundown on DraftKings. I want to reach out to the chat here, see what's going on. Boy from Cali's joining us, and let's go. Love that Friday night playoff slate vibes. So says King of All Trades. Love you, man. Appreciate you joining us on a Friday. And Phil Lee with $5. That is awesome. Hey, thank you so much for your contribution. I need to get with Crash because we had been selecting charities for donations, and I don't know where we're at right now, but we'll make sure that gets taken care of. And super appreciate you, Phil. Love having you join us, and I hope my my takes are helping you to win some big money, way more than that $5, right? Really appreciate that. So Boston will smack the Heat tonight, coming from a number one Heat fan. Yeah, that's right, boy from Cali with his Tyler Hero avatar. Yeah, I agree. I mean, they got, it's, tonight's the night. I think, look, the thing is, I mean, Miami's shown like they don't get smacked around very easily, and I think their defense is stout. But Boston needs to bring it, and I think, in front of the home crowd, I do think, they got to get off to a hot start. I think it's going to be raining threes. I'm fully expecting 4 plus threes from Tatum, 3 plus threes from Brown. And I think Butler may have a little bit of a flat game. So, yeah, hey, Derek Wilson, nice to see you in here. Thanks for joining. So we're getting a good crew going in the chat. I'm going to head on over to DraftKings now, FanDuel now, and take a peek. Let's see what we got here. Pricing is a little bit different, and also, for those of you who aren't familiar, the structure of the game is a little bit different. So they don't change pricing on FanDuel for the top positions. They essentially, want you to, choose the order that you think that the players are going to come in, but not necessarily forcing you to think about the money. So it makes for, I think the most challenging part is not necessarily picking your MVP and your star and your pro position. It's actually picking your utility players and getting those utility players right. That seems to be the difference maker. So, so what do we have in terms of here? I'm just taking a look at the lineups that I have. What do we have here in terms of pricing? So in this case, kind of the opposite from DraftKings, you've got Jason Tatum 500 more than Jimmy Butler. I appreciate that. I do think that he's going to score more fantasy points than Butler. So I would pay up for that. Jaylen Brown is about 1,500 down from Butler, and Adebayo another 2,000 down from Brown. So that's a pretty big difference when you get down to Adebayo, making him a little bit more attractive in this format. Middle of the range, you got Al Horford kind of standing alone at 12,000. I think that's a little too high price for him. Marcus Smart at 10.5, I think is a great price. Like I said, I think he's going to have a big night tonight. Somewhere between 35 and 40 fantasy points in my estimation. Lowry, also pretty solid at 10K. Malcolm Brogdon, 9,500. Then you get to Caleb Martin at 8,500, and I really do like his pricing here. Again, as I mentioned, I think he's needed on the defensive end, so I think that's a really good price for him. What I thought was interesting was getting into the 8K and 7,500 range. So you've got Strus, Vincent, Derek White, and Robert Williams. And if you script it out, Vincent's going to get the most minutes. He's their starting point guard, and they really don't have any other point guard except for Lowry. And we know that Lowry's minutes are restricted, and Lowry also, they both can play shooting guard position as well. So with Hero out, he's been getting a lot of minutes. I see that continuing. I like that pricing a lot at 8,000. Derek White, as I mentioned, 7,500, and he has not been getting the minutes. This has been going to Brogdon. So the differential between White and Brogdon is about $2,000. So if you think that Brogdon's a little bit dinged up, maybe he isn't going to be getting those minutes, and they're going to be going to White, and White's going to get 5 or so more minutes than he has been, I like him a lot. So again, for GPPs, I'm interested in White. Otherwise, I prefer to go with like a Lowry. Basically, he's kind of my favorite of the Lowry, Brogdon, and White. He's the best from a points per minute standpoint, and I think they're going to need his offense tonight. Robert Williams, again, 7,500, super cheap. I would not go any lower than him when you get into the, Duncan Robinson and Kevin Love. I think he's down there. I went with Creighton Pitcher the other night, and that did absolutely nothing for me. So I wouldn't go any lower than the 7,500, but you can fit a nice lineup with that. And Robert Williams, again, I think he's, I think he's underpriced, but it does concern me that both sites have really taken him down. So Vegas is assuming something, and I want to wait and see what the deal is with that before I jump in with Robert Williams. So which player is going to get the most steals, says Doug L. Boy, that's a great question. I mean, Jimmy Butler is usually good for 2 steals. That's sort of his thing. He's the most consistent there. but somebody like somebody like a Jaylen Brown could certainly sneak in there. So I don't know. What do you think, Doug? And Grant Williams, yeah, super interesting. I tend to agree with you, boy from Cali. I haven't heard anything. They've completely gone away from him in the playoffs, and I think he's a great defender. I did pick him in one of the games against Philadelphia where he came in and played some good minutes, and that actually worked pretty well for me. He's not going to set the world on fire. They don't look at him for any offense, but I do think he's an interesting play from a GPP standpoint. I like him. I like him even more. Let's see, he's 6,000 on FanDuel, and DraftKings, he was in the 2,000s. Let's see. Where is he on? Yeah, 2,200. So I do think from a GPP standpoint, he's an interesting play. I would not put him in your cash game because there's a chance that he ends up. I think he played. Well, he hasn't played this series yet. He didn't play the last game, and in Philly he played. His minutes continued to go down. So the first game he was at. The first game he only played 4 minutes, and they lost. And so then they decided to put him in the next game, and they smashed, and he played 29 minutes. So if you kind of think there's going to be a similar trend going on, might be interesting to put him in. He went from 29 minutes and was effective, and that was the game that I actually played him in, which was great. Of course, then I played him again the next game. He went down to 23 minutes and only scored 10 fantasy points. I gave up on that point, which was good, because then he went down to 12 minutes, 8 minutes, and 3 minutes, and was completely irrelevant. So I think it's interesting, right? Kind of, looking to use him defensively. The defense was much better against Philadelphia when he was in the lineup, and so I think that's an interesting option for tonight. Could be a nice call there, boy from Cali. All right, so that is it. Yahoo. Let me take a quick look here. Yahoo's pricing is fairly straightforward. You're going to be able to get to you can actually get to Tatum, Brown, and Butler on Yahoo pretty easily. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that. But unless you think for some reason Adebayo is going to have a better night than Brown, that's pretty much the only thing that you want to play around with. But it's pretty straightforward, so I'm not going to really focus on that. Joe K is in. Thank you for joining, Joe. You missed most of the analysis, but hey, just give a rewind and check it out. It's pretty succinct, but hopefully it'll help you guys. Any other thoughts from the chat as we finish things out here? It's been a fun playoff so far. I'm in this other little, not a league, but a little game where we basically have to pick every game through the playoffs. Right now I'm tied for first, so we'll see how the rest of the playoffs goes. But I'm picking Celtics tonight. So unless anyone has any reason why I shouldn't be picking the Celtics, let me know. But maybe I'll look for you guys next week as I try and continue to take over the lead of this little league. So what else? Anything else? Yeah, Doug, so you like Brown for most deals? Yeah, I think he could be. I mean, he's definitely, he's an elite steals guy. I think he's going to be super active tonight. I think the whole team is. And so it might be the night where, again, Butler doesn't get his 2 steals, but we get somebody like Jaylen Brown kind of getting 2 or 3 tonight. So, all right. Hey, well, thanks everyone for joining this Friday afternoon. I hope you guys have an incredible weekend, and I hope you guys have some fantastic lineups and scores tonight. Look out in Discord. I'll be posting, and we'll see you tomorrow as we look to crush it in NBA DFS Coach Talk.